Hey everybody, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Game of Thrones Season 8 Episode 4 Q&A video, so here we go. I pulled questions from my Episode 4 video as well as the Episode 5 trailer video, so we'll be covering a lot of stuff because everyone's starting to wonder about what's going on with the finale. If you're brand new to the channel, be sure to subscribe to get all the Game of Thrones videos. There's a new round of the HBO Now giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on the video. There's some new HBO footage that they dropped this morning too that I'll tag at the end of this, just because it's not quite related to what's going on with the finale. Obviously careful for spoilers through Episode 4 if you haven't seen it yet. So here we go, first question. Colt-like asks, do you think that we're in store for another wildfire explosion? Emilia Clarke hinted this on Jimmy Kimmel. So I know the interview that you're talking about with Emilia Clarke, that wasn't exactly what she was talking about, but I do think there's going to be a whole bunch of fire. Before the producers seemed to be writing Mad Queen Daenerys so hard, I would have told you that wildfire might be a big twist, just because that's kind of become Cersei's weapon of trade, and we know that the pyromancers are still a big thing in King's Landing, so it's possible that there's more wildfire hidden underneath the city. But at the end of last week's episode, when Missandei said Dracarys as her last words, she was actually speaking to Daenerys, and as the producers explained, she was telling Daenerys to quote-unquote light them up, because Dracarys in High Valyrian literally means dragonfire, so I think that most of the fire, at least initially, is going to come from Daenerys. But this will come up a lot in the next couple of days while people are thinking about what's going to be happening during the episode and what's happening with Daenerys' arc. Her small council, Tyrion and Varys right now, are trying to get her to not burn down King's Landing during the attempt. Next question, Gemini Westworld asks, so does Jon want to be with her or not? So you're talking about Daenerys. Yeah, he definitely wants to be with her, but the situation's become so complicated. The logic that the show is going with is that Daenerys is worried that they won't be able to be together if the realm knows his true identity and knows that they're related. Normally you think that wouldn't be a big problem because why wouldn't they just get married and they co-rule together and it's not a big problem. Daenerys still gets the Iron Throne, just not in quite the way that she expected. But per Daenerys' logic and the way that the show is writing her, whether or not you agree with the way that the show is writing her, is that she thinks that the other lords of the realm will not support a marriage between the two of them because they're related. Now, Varys mentioned it during the episode. She's his aunt. Of all the people who know Jon Snow's secret and know about his relationship with Daenerys, Varys is the only person who's ever raised the issue that Jon Snow would not want to get married to her because he's so off-put by the idea of them being related, even though for Daenerys it's not that big of a thing. You recognize some of the problems with that logic too, because for hundreds of years, Targaryens wed brother to sister, they ruled over Westeros, and nobody in the realm really had that big of a problem with it. So why then would the realm in its current form not support a marriage between Jon Snow and Daenerys? It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense. We will probably be analyzing a lot of the plot twists in the last two episodes, thinking that very same thing. Like, why is this happening? This doesn't make sense based on the evidence that the show has given us before and all the other stuff they were foreshadowing. So just be prepared for illogical left turns. Next one, Starbucks Stark asks, how can Bran help in a war in the South? Osha told Bran that Robb cannot be helped because men cut down all the trees in the South. He gets his power from those trees. So the thing about that is that on the TV show, his power isn't quite so tied to the weirwoods as it is in the books. Part of the idea on the show is that his abilities, when he's seeing through history, is that he's actually seeing what the weirwoods saw. So how could he see something if there wasn't a weirwood there to see it? So that's why people are like, well, there are places in the South where they cut all the weirwoods down, so he wouldn't be able to see history in those places. But as you saw on the TV show, he saw all that stuff happening around the Tower of Joy. There are no weirwoods in sight, so clearly the show doesn't care about that rule. But really, I think Bran's importance will come in the finale when it comes time to start thinking about how they're going to rule Westeros going forward. Because remember, he remembers all this history and things that have happened, so one of the immediate ways they could use him is to sort of prove what happened in the North, like when Jon Snow was talking about the White Walkers, how they defeated them. So he's very useful when it comes to getting down to the truth and facts about things, and facts about history. Next one, Zurzak asks, will we see the new Prince of Dorne, his army and soldiers from Highgarden? Will they come to either Dany or Jon's aid when fighting Cersei? I'm not expecting it, but I do think that we'll see that new Prince of Dorne in the finale at some point. Someone is going to have to wind up winning the Game of Thrones, whether or not there's an Iron Throne at the end of all this, even though the ending is supposed to be really bittersweet. I do think they'll have a way to reference what's going to be happening with the future of things, so you'll have an idea for where the characters in the realm is headed next, even if they don't spell it out in really great detail, so they might pay off that Prince of Dorne and have him show up in whatever their final moments are during the finale. All the book readers right now are scratching their heads trying to figure out who that Prince of Dorne is, because they didn't give him a name during the episode. The show has already killed off all the male Martells from the book, so there are no more heirs to take up their throne, but it could be someone that they created for the TV show or just some other secondary character from the books that they've given the throne to. Next question, Paradox asks, do you think that Dany is going to be pregnant or already is since they kept talking about it last season? Well, yeah, they certainly did foreshadow it, and going into this season, I was kind of expecting that, but because we're in the last couple of episodes, and they haven't said anything about it or referenced it, I am kind of wondering at this point. This all gets back to the idea of the show, setting up things and then just completely taking left turns to try and be unexpected. So I am a little bit worried that they'll have set up all these little plot points, but they'll just wind up being dead ends. Like, no, we don't intend on paying that off. Like, there was a moment in the Dragon Pit in the season 7 finale where Jon Snow's talking to Daenerys and she reminds him again, she's talked to him a couple times since they've been together, that she can't have children anymore. He drops this really big teaser foreshadowing the future, saying, maybe the woman who killed your child and your husband isn't a reliable source of information, implying that Mirri Maz Duur may have been trying to mislead Daenerys or lie to her in some way. The books have provided a little more evidence for this through Dance with Dragons, but since the TV show has gone past that, obviously they've been a little more on the nose about it. I can't have children anymore. Jon Snow saying, maybe she was lying to you. When was the last time she and Jon Snow had sex? How long has it been? How much time would pass before she could potentially be showing? The show plays it so fast and loose with how much time goes by that they really make it hard to connect the dots. And like I said, they take a lot of really big left turns. A really good example of an illogical Daenerys moment from episode 4 is when they're having that war council moment and Jon Snow tells her all about the Ironborn fleet. They talk about it at length. And then later, when Dan and Dave are talking about why Rhaegal was killed, they say that Daenerys forgot about the Iron Fleet when they were just talking about it in the War Council in an earlier scene. So that doesn't make any kind of sense. So I am a little concerned that there'll be moments like that during episode 5 and 6, but we'll just have to see. Next question, Suhesh asks, in one of Bran's visions, a dragon is flying over King's Landing. Is that Dany riding Drogon alone to the Red Keep? Yeah, they actually put that in one of the season 4 trailers so long ago. They haven't done a lot of Bran's visions in a while. What happened was that you just saw a shadow of a dragon flying over King's Landing. It wasn't on fire or anything like that, but this is way back in season 4. And then I think they did it again during season 6 when he's flashing back and he sees the Mad King. You see him get a small vision of the future with Cersei blowing up the Great Sept, so he's seeing the past and the future. So as of right now, I think that vision just implies Daenerys flying over King's Landing with Drogon during the big battle that's going to be happening during episode 5. Next question, Amy asks, do you think that Brienne is pregnant with Jaime's child? Do you think that he will die in her arms? Well, I would have said that before, like back when Jaime's like, I want to die in the arms of someone I love. I was thinking that that person would be Brienne. Nikolai Coster-Waldau, after episode 4, came out and explained Jaime's actions, why he was going back to King's Landing, back to Cersei, and why he was not staying with Brienne. A lot of people were wondering if he was going back to finally kill her and become the Queen Slayer like he's the King Slayer. Would he also kill Cersei if she was going to do something unimaginably terrible during the big battle? But as much as it doesn't totally make sense, Nikolai Coster-Waldau explained from a script perspective, Jaime was going back to Cersei because he's, one, addicted to her, like it's an addiction, and he's fallen off the wagon again. Like, he was briefly clean of her, he was having this happy life with Brienne, and he saw something that maybe he could have for himself. But like a lot of addicts, he falls off the wagon, so he feels like he's compelled, he's pulled to Cersei, even though he understands how bad she is. But also at the same time, Nikolai Coster-Waldau says that Jaime doesn't think that he deserves a good life with Brienne. I'm a monster. That's why he kept saying that. I'm terrible. I've done all these awful things. I pushed a boy out the window. He basically tells Brienne all the worst things that he's ever done. So whether or not you think it's going to go down similarly in the books, they really needed a couple more episodes to flesh out that relationship before Jaime went back to Cersei. To answer your question about possible pregnancy, no, I don't think that Brienne is pregnant with Jaime's child. I think that would be a little too much fan service. I think the idea is that Jaime is going to go out in a blaze of glory, so to speak, with Cersei. And however it goes down, they'll wind up dying in each other's arms, and Brienne will just be really sad about the whole thing. Next question, Night Moves SSBS. Wouldn't Euron be confused as to how Tyrion knew that Cersei was pregnant, then lead him to questioning the legitimacy of his supposed child? Yeah, the really funny thing about Cersei's plan is that she's hinging on the fact that Euron does not know how to do math. If you just give him a minute, he'll figure it out. Just gonna take him a second, get that hamster on the wheel, just start counting backwards from 9 months, like, wait a minute, she just told me, how could Tyrion know about it? The only time he gives Cersei a really weird look like he's questioning her decision is when she does not kill Tyrion on the spot. He just seems confused about why Cersei would spare his life instead of killing him on the spot. Before Theon died at the Battle of Winterfell, I was hoping that he'd be the person to kill Euron, but now it sounds like it's going to be Jaime, and it's going to have something to do with the way that Jaime and Cersei wind up going out. Next question, Ashan asks, they reference Starbucks coffee, I wonder what it means. The infamous Starbucks cup, everyone was just going on and on about that after the episode too. I'd only watched the episode once when I made my episode 4 video, so I missed it the first time, but if you know to look for it, then you can actually spot it pretty easily because it appears during the same scene where the showrunners, Dan and Dave, have their special cameo as wildlings. They were the ones with the beards on. They didn't have any real big speaking lines or anything like that, so it would have been hard to pick them out unless you looked really, really hard or paused the episode. The thing about the coffee cup is that as much of a meme as it turned into, HBO actually released a statement and then within, I would say like a day or so, they digitally replaced the file for the episode on HBO Now and HBO Go. So if you rewatch the episode now, they've digitally removed the coffee cup and it's not there anymore. Usually they don't do things like that until the DVD and Blu-ray release. I think just because so many people are watching the show right now, they're like, we better fix this really fast. Next question, Agata asks, if King's Landing is going to be burned to the ground, maybe they'll change the capital to another city in the future. Which do you think that it would be? Well, the interesting thing is that before Aegon's conquest, the capital was down in Old Town because Aegon is the one that built King's Landing. The reason why it's called King's Landing is because at the beginning of Aegon's conquest of the Seven Kingdoms, he actually brought his armies from Dragonstone. King's Landing is the location of where his army first made landfall as they started to march around the different kingdoms, conquering everyone. But the thing about moving the capital, if they needed to, if they didn't want to rebuild King's Landing, is that you would need to put it in a port city, and Old Town is just like the next best option. It's one of the most populous places in Westeros next to King's Landing right now. Next question, Christina asks, do you think that there will be a surprise 7th episode? I mean, there's 7 gods, 7 kingdoms, 7 high houses. Why end it with only 6 episodes? The interesting thing about that is that there actually is a 7th episode, but it's more of a bonus episode. It's not like a canonical episode where the plot moves forward. I believe it's meant to be more of a documentary and a retrospective on the show, doing a little bit of analysis. So it'll air on HBO. You'll get it just like you get all the other Game of Thrones episodes, and it'll air the week after episode 6 happens. I think what'll happen is that after the finale, they'll release maybe like a small promo just reminding people that they're going to air it that next week. Like, surprise, there's a bonus episode. So I will do a video for that quote-unquote episode 7, even though technically it ends at episode 6. Next question, Mickey asks, I don't understand Tyrion anymore. How did he think that appealing to his sister's better nature would work? It had never before. It certainly wasn't going to start with him siding with Dany. So yeah, I agree that nobody thought that Cersei was going to do the right thing. So Tyrion's family has always been one of his many great weaknesses. Usually wine or his tongue gets him in trouble, but his family is a major weak point. So a lot of people are wondering if he's going to betray Daenerys in some way during the final 2 episodes. His family would be one of those weak points that might cause him to betray her. Next question, Surya asks, do you think that Jon is going to kill Dany in the end? I think, yeah, that's like a pretty hardcore nuclear ending. The only way I think that happens is if Dany does go full Mad Queen, or if Jon thinks she goes full Mad Queen. Right now, we're a long ways away from that, so it just depends on how optimistic or pessimistic or tragic you think the end of Game of Thrones is going to be. We'll be talking a whole lot about this for the next couple of weeks, because obviously we have episode 5, then we have whatever the events of the finale are going to be. So don't worry, there'll be many more videos about what the end game of Game of Thrones is going to be. Thank you everyone for submitting questions. These are always really fun to do. Of course, I'll do these for the next couple of episodes too, and whatever that final bonus episode is going to be. I'm still working on a bonus video for all the Game of Thrones prequels that are coming up. There's 3 that are working on. The one that's called The Long Night, that's set during the Age of Heroes, is supposed to start filming earlier this summer, but you may have also seen them drop that Watchmen HBO trailer. That's going to be dropping in the fall. I will do videos for the Watchmen TV series. I'll try to do a separate trailer video for that, explaining what the timeline of that is, because I think everybody has a vague familiarity with it, but it's not Game of Thrones related, so it's not really critical for what's going on this week and next week. Leave all your requests for bonus videos in the comments below. There'll be more later this week, obviously, but congratulations to Priya Singh. You're the giveaway winner from my last big video. Please email me on the About page of my channel so I can get your details. Click here for